Hello, this is Katrina Hodges from Dr. Hefner's Chemistry 2 course. Today I'm going to be explaining to you why you should be wearing sunscreen using a few chemistry topics, and I'm going to dive into the difference between chemical and mineral sunscreen. I actually took this question to my Instagram profile. I asked of my friends and followers, do you wear sunscreen? And surprisingly, it was about 50-50. Some people said they did wear it and some people said they didn't, which, surrised me because I wear it. My family wears it. We try to protect our skin from the sun by wearing sunscreen, right? There were even some people that said that they thought it was harmful. So proponents of sunscreen typically encourage people to wear it to prevent skin cancer, but some people believe that the actual sunscreen causes skin cancer, and I also saw some articles online that suggested the same narrative. Let's talk about the purpose of wearing sunscreen. The first thing we need to understand is what sunscreen protects against. In chemistry, we've learned about the electromagnetic spectrum. As you can see, this spectrum shows the different types of electromagnetic radiation. Some are harmful, some are not. As you can see, the X-ray is a type of radiation which is harmful. When you get an X-ray, you wear a protective vest. But then you have things like the radio. You don't wear any protection when you're listening to the radio at all. These have different wavelengths. Typically, the longer the wavelength, the less harmful the radiation type is. Ultraviolet radiation falls in this category of harmful radiation. The wavelengths are shorter and are able to carry more energy. UV rays come from the sun. There are three types: UVA, UVB, and UVC. Easy to remember, right? As you can imagine, since these rays are coming directly from the sun, they contain a lot of energy. Let's start with UVA. A is actually the least harmful of them all. It has a longer wavelength, so it doesn't carry as much energy. It can cause damage in your skin, more like cosmetic issues, so you'll see like skin wrinkling or actual burning, which is still painful and you want to avoid that as much as possible. But then there's also UVB, which is a lot more powerful and a lot more stronger. This has a shorter wavelength, carries more energy. And when you have damage from UVA, this can make you more susceptible to damage from UVB. You'll find that UVB is able to actually ionize molecules in your skin. So this is when the energy coming in actually causes electrons to be lost in a molecule. This can actually alter the DNA, causing skin cancer. The ionization can lead to skin cancers like melanoma, which is a very serious concern. UVC is actually the most dangerous of all the rays, but luckily it's captured in the ozone layer, so we really don't have to worry about it. There are some man-made objects that do emit UVC, but we're not going to talk about that right now. As you can see, energy in the form of UV rays can cause a lot of damage to your skin. You don't want sunburn, you don't want cancer, and you don't want your skin wrinkling. That's not the look you're going for. You can protect yourself by wearing hats or tight-knit clothing or even implementing sunscreen. Sunscreen is an effective tool that helps stop UV rays. You can either find it in two options: chemical or mineral sunscreen. Remember, the UV rays are just energy, and so the sunscreen is just stopping the energy from meeting your skin. This is where the first law of thermodynamics comes in. It states that energy can neither be created or destroyed. It can only change forms. So this means when the UV ray hits the sunscreen, it's not just going to make the UV ray disappear. The sunscreen needs to change the way the UV ray is presenting its energy. It needs to change its form. The way chemical sunscreen does this is by initially absorbing the UV ray and then releasing it as heat. This is an exothermic reaction. This is familiar to us because we know when the temperature changes in a reaction, typically it tries to reach equilibrium again, and one of the ways it can do this is by releasing heat. There are many different types of chemicals that are used in chemical sunscreen. The most common ones are ivabenzone, octisalate, and oxyben. Although these names aren't so familiar to us, they're pretty common and they are able to absorb into our skin and then absorb the UV rays. Mineral sunscreen is usually made up of titanium dioxide or zinc oxide. They both have a white pigment, so when the UV ray hits it, the mineral causes it to reflect the light and scatter it. Scattering the light is just when the electrons in the minerals start to basically vibrate. So then when the UV ray hits them, it's like shaking, and so it shoots off in different directions. That's why it's called scattering. And also, another cool fact about the titanium dioxide is that it's similar to the chemical sunscreen in the fact that it's a photocatalyst. So it can also absorb the UV ray light and then use the energy in some other way, like releasing heat or something like that. Overall, both types of sunscreen take the energy in and push it back out, or convert it into a different type of energy. I also want to address the concerns of some individuals that might be a little nervous about the chemical sunscreen, knowing that it does absorb in the skin. There are a lot of studies around this, especially this JAMA article. It shows that after prolonged use of chemical sunscreen, there actually is some absorption that ends up in the blood. But do not fear. It doesn't end up there at a toxic level, and it's really harmless. They did conclude that they will do more research, but you really shouldn't be worried about it. If that still makes you uneasy, remember you have the option of mineral sunscreen, which means that it will be sitting on top of your skin instead of being absorbed in it. My last remark about the chemical sunscreen. Remember, don't be scared when people say there's chemicals in this. That doesn't automatically mean that's bad. All of these things, whether it's the zinc oxide or the ingredients that make up the chemical sunscreen, they appear on the periodic table of elements. They're all there. So just know that these are normal, naturally occurring elements, and it's usually the combination or the toxicity that causes issues, and the things that are distributed are approved by the FDA, so they do not have any harmful effects at the moment. I hope you're inspired to either continue wearing sunscreen, wear sunscreen more, or start wearing sunscreen. I know I enjoy learning about the science of sunscreen and the power of UV rays. I usually wear sunscreen when I go to the pool, but now I'm going to start wearing it more often when I go to walks with friends or I'm just outside for a long time. If you still are not convinced to wear sunscreen, it's still important to protect your skin. You could do it in other ways, like I mentioned before, wearing hats or wearing lots of clothing to cover your skin, staying in the shade, or using an umbrella, staying inside. There's many ways to protect your skin. Once you have this new information, try to apply it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll also note that some of